Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Basketball Bulletin. My name is Trevor Lane. We're happy to see you all here the Tuesday afternoon to talk some hoops, talk some trade market, everything else going on around the NBA. We're going to be taking your questions, your comments coming in. Happy to see you guys all here. Joining me is Donnie Freeman. Donnie, how you doing?
I'm living. I bruised my thigh muscle pretty bad.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I've just been on a bunch of pain pills, all that stuff, and I'm just now was putting on another icy hot. So yeah, it's pretty bad. Got like a lump going on.
Did you throw a flying knee or something like that? Or what did you do?
No, I was lifting pretty heavy, and I slammed the dumbbells on my legs. I had the
Oh,
120 dumbbells, and I just
oh,
and it caught me like right on the edge of the muscle, and
oh,
man. So
painful.
yeah.
Painful. 120 though. That's putting up some serious numbers there. So
Yeah,
that's impressive.
I like to do that rather than get the bench. I prefer to do the dumbbells. So I go
Yeah.
as high as they let me go with the weights that are available. But yeah,
Eh,
pretty much
The
hit me there and not great.
the incline press, is that what you were doing? Not the
Yeah,
flat?
yeah.
Yeah. Right on. Right on. Well, Donnie, I hope that you heal up quickly. You were added to the list of NBA injuries that just seems to keep growing every single day. We've got a lot to get into, though. Everybody that's joining, again, we're happy to see everybody here and happy to see how many people have subscribed to the channel, how many people have been tuning in for all of our shows and the content that we've been putting out. So we're really excited about everything that we've got going on here at the Basketball Bulletin. Let's start here with Ali. Said, at this moment now, shouldn't Kevin Durant be held accountable for all the bad roster moves that have been built over the years, like how people
Ooh.
troll the GM? I think there's LeBron is certainly the more polarizing of the two between LeBron and Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant's decision to go to Golden State wasn't scrutinized nearly as much. It was still scrutinized, but not as much as LeBron's decision to go to the Miami Heat. LeBron's also he's had a longer period of sustained success, even though Kevin Durant has been around for a while. But I don't know. Is there the sentiment or sense that Kevin Durant is kind of controlling things in Phoenix the way there is the sense that LeBron controls things in LA? I don't feel like that's really a thing.
No, it'll never get to that degree. But I mean, Kevin has decided to go to the last few teams he's been a part of. And, even with that Nets team, notoriously put that together, an all-star break. So
Yeah.
he's been maneuvering a bit, but he'll never get the same scrutiny for a lot of different reasons.
Do you think they find somebody to take Bradley Beal? And I don't know if that's Kevin Durant led or not, but the Suns are trying to find somebody to take Bradley Beal so that they can go get Jimmy Butler. I don't know if that's going to happen. What do you think?
Yeah, I can't really. I saw something from Cidery. I'm not sure who the original source of that is, but he said that the asking price was 2 firsts just to get off that contract. I don't.
I
And they
think
don't
the
have
Suns
2
only have
firsts
one to trade.
So yeah, it's just not going to happen if that is the case.
Yeah, that's going to be the challenge because it seems like Jimmy wants Phoenix. The Suns want Jimmy, but nobody wants Beal. The Miami Heat don't want Bradley Beal. Nobody else wants him either. That's going to be that's a big hurdle to overcome for the Suns. But some team might talk themselves into it. You never know. As far as KD compared to LeBron, as far as KD being held accountable, again, there's not that same sense. We know LeBron was pretty in on the Russell Westbrook trade, making that happen, and so that's resulted in a lot of criticism and all of that. So I think that it's just a different level here.
The LeBron thing is just it goes so far back. It goes all the way back to, as far back as his original stint. So it's just been what people have thought for a long time. But especially in that second Cleveland stint, it really hit ahead with that. So when we talked about before how when old narratives hit you, they can stick for good or bad reasons. And that's one that, he's had involvement in decisions they've made because no franchise doesn't consult their star players. They always ask, do you want this? Do you want that? What can we do to, make you happy? If this is making you unhappy, they always do that. That's normal. They always have done that. But I think with LeBron, it's just been, he's got more of an outside role with a lot of franchises. And he also has put himself in positions in that second Cleveland stint where he was he had a foot to their throat because it was always, time for a new contract. If you don't do something I like, I'm gonna so that's where a lot of that comes from. He's definitely had a very big influence where he's been, but like I said, it's not like it's a huge deal. A lot of teams do that, but I think with LeBron, just because of who he is, right? So
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's not a unique thing that LeBron gets consulted on things. All teams do this with their star players, but LeBron catches more heat for it. But again, LeBron also there's a lot more LeBron fans, there's a lot more LeBron haters than there are Kevin Durant fans, Kevin Durant haters, right?
yeah.
So I think that's a big part of all this. And it also, like, the fact that Durant is on the Suns, like, how many teams, fans of teams right now, like, viscerally hate the Suns? Not a lot, but the Lakers, there's a lot of people that absolutely hate the Lakers. So that's a factor too. It's not just LeBron, it's LeBron and he's on the Lakers. That creates added incentive for people to run around, and every time they can try to take a victory lap on LeBron, they're going to do it. Both to kind of, I think, piss off Lakers fans, but also to take shots at LeBron fans as well.
Yeah. My favorite thing about that is how LeBron gets the discredit for some of it, but not the credit for the good moves. Like AD obviously is a LeBron move too, but
sure.
Like,
well, and what's funny is, like, everybody, the people that hate LeBron go the other way, right? Where they're like, on the court, LeBron's never going to get the blame. It's always going to be Kevin Love's fault or Chris Bosh's fault or whoever's fault, right? It's going to be somebody else's fault. But on the court, he doesn't get blamed. But off the court, he does. So it's interesting dynamic there. Let's go here. Oh, Sky Falcon said, Ishbia is the one making dumb decisions. He's meddlesome and delusional. I mean, the dude's obviously been extremely successful. He's a billionaire. And I don't know. It doesn't surprise me that much. Like, if I had $1 billion, I might also think that I can hit the ground running in a new league and throw a bunch of money around and win instantly, no problem. Like, I'd probably have that confidence too if I had that many zeros in my bank account.
It's the classic case of a owner that's too involved. Like, we've seen it time and time again. But with him, he came in and instantly was making sweeping decisions, like firing the coach. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Oh, screw your CBA. We're going to go get Beal, which is absolutely backfired. Like, he came in making really big decisions, and it's so far not panned out. So I think he needs to kind of, maybe loosen the reins a little bit, let somebody else kind of run things and kind of step back. It's a common thing when owners are like that.
If you spend the amount of money that he spent on the Suns, you get this shiny new toy. You want to play with it. You want to play with it. And I get it, but you can also make a lot of mistakes that other basketball people, real people who've been at it for a long time, may not make those same mistakes. I thought they got a pretty good value on getting Bradley Beal, but just conceptually, you've got three guys that all kind of overlap with their skill sets in Beal, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant. But anyway,
I think he was the best available player at the time, and they were like, "We're gonna hit this wall anyway, so let's just go get Beal.
Let's just go get him." Yeah, exactly. All right, let's go here. Trev, you got a top 10 Lakers trade target list. Is it just Walker Kessler written 10 times? Is that what the list is?
Yeah, probably.
Not really, but I don't have a top 10 list. Like I'm just going to pull one out of my pocket or something like that. But I don't know. I mean, for the Lakers specifically, Walker Kessler, of course, is one. Jonas Valanciunas is another guy that's out there. Nikola Vucevic, maybe. Robert Williams.
Top 10, like.
Yeah, that's in no particular order. Bruce Brown. I mean, those kind of guys, like, could you get in on Brandon Ingram? Although there was the report from yesterday with Eric Pincus saying that the Lakers don't want to move Rui Hachimura either. That'll make it tough for them to match salaries with anybody. But yeah, I mean, I kind of wonder if we just see more around the margins moves from the Lakers. And I do think they really want to get a sense of what they look like when Jared Vanderbilt proves to be a real person and not a mythical figure. That's something that they're waiting on to see how that all looks.
We've all been waiting for a year now. So do you think, on what we were just talking about, Ishbia is a good owner? Because I see a couple comments on that. Smokey said Ishbia looks after his big players. He's not a bad owner. That's a bad take. And then also Brandon says he'd rather have an owner that spends too much than too little, which I actually agree with.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think he's a good owner just because he's willing to throw his pockets around? Or
I think it's too early to say. Like, I do think that I think he was very dismissive of the new CBA not based on what he said, but based on the actions that they took. The new CBA is structured specifically to avoid super teams, to avoid 3-star roster builds. And Look, the CBA was created to try to punish high spending teams, basically, and make it to the point where teams would not want to spend. Ishbia, the Celtics, right? Some of these teams just looked at that and went, "Oh yeah," and then flipped the middle finger and said, "We're going to do it anyway." Okay, but now you've got to deal with the negative consequences. And to their credit, I think the Suns have actually done a pretty nice job under the serious restrictions. I mean, significant restrictions that they're operating under, actually filling out their roster. The problem is the NBA is not the way it was 20 years ago. 20 years ago, it was you get the top 3 players, you get 3 top players, you're a contender. That's it. That's the math. That is the formula for success. Not so. Now you get 3 players, they all better fit, and the pieces around them better fit, because if you have any weaknesses, those weaknesses will be exposed and they will be attacked and they will be your downfall. And we've seen that now consistently in today's NBA. So I think it was an underestimation of not just the restrictions of the CBA, but how difficult building out a competent roster is in this league. Talent does not trump everything in today's NBA.
Yeah, I won't say he's a bad owner. I guess I'll just amend that and say he made bad decisions. Yeah. But I mean, if you want to say that, like, he looks after his guys, that goes both ways, because, we talked about KD and the GM thing, and we also talked about how KD has not really gotten scrutinized. KD was heavily in on the Bradley Beal. Like, I remember Shams saying it. In fact, I just looked it up while we were, talking there a second ago. He said KD helped recruit Beal. Like, you can say that that's a bad decision. And if he's going to just listen to that, I mean, it's a bad decision to just listen to it and take his word for it and execute the trade. So, I mean, altogether, maybe they can recover, but I think it's just a very messy situation that they find themselves in for a lot of different reasons. And Ishbia is also a part of that.
I'll tell you who's really happy right now. It's the Houston Rockets, who have shorted the future of the Phoenix Suns. They've got future Suns picks, and I think they're looking at them, and they're probably drooling a little bit looking at those future Suns picks and what those may actually be once KD starts to really slow down and eventually they move on from him. Sky Falcon here. Spend money, hire smart people, stay out of the way. That's what a good owner would do. Yeah, I agree with that. All owners make mistakes. It's about how he makes players feel when they're. He even helped Phoenix fans that are getting blackouts watching Phoenix games. Genie never looks out for fans like that. And again, there's things that we can give him credit for, like that. He also just issued a new, I don't know if I want to say menu, but he's essentially, they've got a value menu now in the arena in Phoenix, which makes it more affordable for fans to go to games. Look, again, not everything's been bad. Just the way that he's gone about building this roster, I think maybe there was a little bit too much bravado there, but I can't put him in the bad category just yet. We've got a long way to go, and we'll see how that all plays out. And man, Donnie, I've talked about it a bunch recently. The blackouts, the regional blackouts.
Yeah, those
can we find, like, it feels like we should be 20 years past that at this point, and we're stuck.
Yeah, you can't even watch games, especially if you're in certain markets. Like I've told you before, I'm in the middle of markets for multiple teams. And so trying to watch either of those teams, let alone the fact that I'm trying to watch a different team when they come in this area, I'm like blacked out for like 6 games or something like that. It's pretty annoying. And there's nothing you can really do about it aside from either paying for their service or for the local service, or for just streaming it illegally. It's like there's not very many options, right? Or they can come with you on playback. So
there you go. That's the other way to do it. Which, by the way, you're more than welcome if you want to jump. I know it's an early game, but if you want to jump on with me today, then we can certainly do that.
I would, but I'm gonna go back to sleep. This leg is killing me.
I don't blame you. I'm
going back to sleep.
Michael said, I'm confused. Pelinka talked about sustained Lakers excellence, but considers the bipolar play of Rui an untouchable asset. Well, I think the problem is we jump to that word untouchable with players. Whenever we hear a team's not trying to trade a player, we jump to the word untouchable, and it's just not. It's an overstatement, which is not true. Is Rui untouchable? No. I think in the right deal, they would absolutely move Rui Hachimura. But Donnie, I think one of the things we see, this is not a Lakers thing. This is around the NBA right now. Teams are going to get information out there publicly. Now, this was from opposing teams, but still, that would benefit them. Like right now, the Lakers having information out that they're trying like hell to move Rui Hachimura, that doesn't help them get the best return for him. And so there is a lot of posturing through the media and things like that. Again, this was from Eric Pincus's piece, and he referenced opposing GMs, but still the point remains that you're going to see a lot of, oh, well, this team doesn't really want to move this guy and all of it. You're not going to hear a lot of this team is desperate to trade this player because no team wants that out there.
Yeah, they're just not going to say that. So I don't know that the Lakers have any untouchables really, other than the fact they're trying to hold on to some of their guys like Dalton, for the future. But I don't know. And obviously LeBron and AD. But I kind of feel like if like Milwaukee called and was like, "Hey, you want Giannis?" They'd be like, "Sure. Which one do you want?" Like I kind of feel like that. Maybe not LeBron because I think they want that retirement money, but whatever. That retirement tour money. But I think I don't know that that's the case here. And in terms of Rui, my thing with Rui is that he's inconsistent when asked to play on the perimeter defensively. Yeah. And that is a really big, in fact, that's the biggest weakness he has. Like he's not able to keep up with all the screening actions, off ball movement. He just can't keep up with it. He's not able to do it. And you can argue that he just flat out wouldn't be playable against certain teams in the playoffs if you can avoid it. Like you may have to, and he's got obviously utility. You can have him do different things like guard up and things like that, but you could argue maybe you shouldn't play him in certain series depending on who the matchup is against. And for a guy that's making like your fourth biggest contract,
17
on the roster,
million, yeah,
that's a kind of tough sell, right? So I do understand why fans are upset with Rui, and I think that DFS slots so perfectly into what the Lakers need that all it does is exasperate what Rui doesn't do good, which is really unfortunate. It like really shines a huge spotlight on Rui's deficiencies, and it just makes him look really bad. And my thing with Rui has always been, it's kind of hard to ask for consistency, at least on the offensive end, when he has no consistent offensive role. Like he's just now started doing the thing where he's ducking in and cutting. He wasn't doing that for like a year. It feels like he's just now
the baseline cuts
again. Yeah, and it got him like 10 points in that one game. Otherwise, all he does is stand in the corner the entire game. They don't even let him get, that one dribble pull up. JJ has eliminated that. He got it once the other game, and he's pretty much eliminated that from Rui shot diet. The mid range, post up fadeaway shots Rui shoots, that's been eliminated. So like when Rui's asked to take nothing but threes, that's going to be up and down. It's going to be volatile. So in terms of that, it is what it is. Maybe you could find a better player for the salary, but that's my thing with Rui is if he's inconsistent, his role is also inconsistent. He's forced to play out of position. It's just a weird spot he's in.
Yeah, he's in an interesting spot because like you said, the success of Dorian Finney-Smith on the defensive side of the ball, it really throws into contrast when you're watching Rui and you notice how big the gap is between the two guys on that side of the floor. And so it's going to be an interesting question for the Lakers. I think Rui's availability will largely be dependent upon Jared Vanderbilt and his and perhaps Christian Wood as well, their ability to come back and be healthy and play in order to make Rui I don't want to say expendable, but an easier player to trade. Right now, the Lakers still need the wing depth. And so if you're moving him, you have to factor that in. They didn't have before making the Dorian Finney-Smith trade. They were, woefully thin on the wing. You would still need to get somebody. You need Jared Vanderbilt to come back, be healthy, stay healthy, I think, in order to move him. But the reality is he's also their biggest potentially movable salary. But nobody's taking back Jared Vanderbilt. Teams don't want to take back Gabe Vincent. Jalen Hood-Schifino, sure, he's an expiring contract, but it's only $4 million. So he's the best chance to do that.
And you don't really want to give up wings like Rui if you can avoid it. Big, strong wings like Rui. Sometimes he doesn't play as physically or as big as you would like, but he's got tools that allow him to be useful for you. You wouldn't want to give him up if possible. He's just a weird player, right?
This is a good point from Sky Falcon. I think Rui's more valuable to the Lakers than he would be to other teams in a trade. I don't see anyone giving up more than neutral value in a trade. I think there's some truth to that.
Yeah.
Because when we talk about like teams that you might trade with, let's say, do the Jazz want Rui Hachimura? No, that's not where they're at in their build. A lot of the teams you'd be trading with that are sellers on the market, they're sellers because they're rebuilding. The Toronto Raptors. Do the Raptors want Rui? No. And so that's where it might be more beneficial to wait, and not saying the Lakers in general should wait to make a trade, but Rui has an expiring contract next year might be an easier piece to trade because most of the teams you would trade him to that you're trying to buy from don't want another year of Rui Hachimura on their books. So that's going to be one of the challenges for the Lakers and for a lot of teams that are acting as buyers on the market to try to overcome.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Let's go here. Federico, Rui and Gabe and a first for DeJounte Murray. Would you do it? I'll tell you who wouldn't do it. The Pelicans wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
They just gave up 2 firsts to get him back in June.
They got him on the books for like another 4 years at like what, 30
Yeah.
million? Do you think that they might just say, screw it, whatever, give us a first and maybe a swap or something, even though it's less than we gave up for him? Do you think they would do it? I guess it just depends on what they do with the other guys, right?
Even then, they wouldn't do it for the Lakers. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
if I'm the Pelicans, like even if I would do it, I'm not doing it to get him to the Lakers. And the Lakers and every other team too has to be concerned. This is why teams are so terrified about long-term salary. Nobody wants to hit that second tier apron. And so every team has to look at long-term salaries and think, oh, well, this is a good player, but 2 years from now, I've got a new contract kicking in for this guy and this guy and this guy. Oh, and then we're a second tier apron team. No, I don't want that salary on the books. So it's a complicated trade market, to be sure.
Yeah. Rui, putting Rui in that deal also, you get back a athletic perimeter guard, which is one of the main needs that the Lakers have, but you're also giving up a wing, which you don't really have. Like that's what we were just talking about. Like you wouldn't, if you give up Rui, you want to get back a wing ideally. So it's kind of tricky, or at least a big, like probably not the guard.
All right, let's go. Pels are finally getting healthy. Let's see what they got. Yeah, Zion Williamson is back today.
See who got. Oh, for next year, I guess, because
I mean, but they want to have a sense of like what do we need to add and all of that.
I was just being dramatic.
No, but no, make no mistake, their season's over.
Yeah,
right. They're done. They're not making the playoffs, but they want to get some intel at least.
Yeah, that'll give them insight into what they should do with Zion, because I think that they may make a very real decision this offseason on Zion.
Yeah,
keep him or move him. And I think if he comes back and is healthy and he's playing like Zion again, then man, why not just try to retool around BI, maybe move CJ and kind of keep this thing going.
Alex says the Grizzlies got to get Cam before the Thunder do. Yeah, or they got this chip locked. I mean, I won't go that far that they've got a championship locked up if the Thunder get Cam Johnson, but this was, I meant to mention this in the video I did this morning on the Jimmy Butler situation and him saying no to Memphis, which, I mean, hurts my heart because not as a fan of another Western Conference team, but he would have been a great fit, I think, in Memphis. Disappointing that he doesn't want to go to the Grizzlies, but whatever. Everybody gets to make their own choices. He's not going to go to the Grizzlies. So now the Grizz are going to pivot and really go all in on Cam Johnson. They may look at Jeremy Grant, Kyle Kuzma, other wings like that. But I do think this is going to push the Grizzlies to really go after Cam Johnson. And hopefully they didn't burn too many bridges with the negotiation with the Nets. There were some reports about a week ago that there were some bad feelings between the two sides after the way the Dorian Finney-Smith trade negotiations went down. But Cam Johnson, the Grizz are going to pivot and try to go after him. He is, I think, a key piece on the trade market. And Donnie, if the Thunder get him, did you know right now the Thunder, they've got another top pick in the draft coming their way. I think it's via Phoenix. I mean, it's crazy.
Disgusting. Disgusting. That team's got all the draft
via
picks
Philly.
coming.
Houston gets Phoenix's pick.
Oh,
so
okay.
right now, OKC gets the 8th pick. If the draft were to go today, OKC would get the 8th pick, and Houston would get the 9th pick.
Yeah, well, I went as far as Alex did in our video where we talked about Cam being like OKC and how they get. I was like, man, they're just gonna win the chip if they get Cam, and it's not because he's a superstar or anything like that, but he just would fit so perfectly on the team that's already running away with the Western Conference. So it's crazy. And in terms of like what they have, I'm not surprised by anything that they have at all. But it's just absolutely outrageous that for this next couple of year window here, they're going to still be pretty cheap or relatively cheap and still have picks coming in. Eventually, they're going to have to make a decision on those picks or trade them or something. And then these extensions are going to kick in. So they're not going to always be in this exact same position. But for right now, if they could sneak out a championship in the position they're in where they're not even an apron team, that's insane.
Yeah, they've done incredible work there. You got to give OKC a lot of credit. Sam Presti a lot of credit for the way they've built this roster, the way it's all put together, and the fact that they still have draft capital coming. That they could have another lottery pick coming this year. They could have even more lottery picks. I mean, it's crazy. And then Houston too. I mean, Houston, an exciting young team. Wow, incredible.
And my thing with OKC is I feel like they may actually make a deep run this year because I feel like they probably paid their dues. I know it was only 1 year, but like typically young teams take a couple years in the playoffs, you deal with that, and then you get up and going. But I think maybe that 1 year was enough for them, and I think they could be in a position if they're healthy to really push it.
I mean, look, you've got defense wins championships. They're the best defense in the NBA. Kirkland said trade Jimmy to OKC for Dort and Isaiah Hartenstein. I don't know if I would do it if I'm OKC. No, I like Jimmy just fine, but I mean, Isaiah Hartenstein's been so critical, giving them that force, that physicality in the paint, and then Lou Dort, the things that he does. Jimmy's not going to chase guys around at 35 years old the way Lou Dort does. So I don't know, like value-wise, sure, and Jimmy Butler's the bigger name, but I don't think I would mess with it if I'm OKC. I don't think I'd go after Jimmy. I think it's much easier to plug and play like a Cam Johnson type player than go after Jimmy.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that at all. Especially because they need a center for sure, like another center. I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I would not. All right, let's go here. Can you guys be on my Miami Heat podcast? Sure. Why not?
I don't mind.
Yeah, we do appearances and such. Demetrius said BI plus for Jimmy. And as soon as LeBron retires, LA will miss Rui. Think he's more 4 than 3 defensively. Agree with that, Demetrius. Agree that Rui is more of a 4 than a 3. Like the problem is New Orleans, again, they're not making the playoffs. They're it's all but out right now. They are the bottom seed in the West right now. They're one win above the worst record in the NBA. So why does New Orleans want Jimmy when at best you're going to be using him next year to try to make a real run? This year is gone. He's 35 already. He doesn't have a year to waste this year. So I don't see why New Orleans. Now, if you want to say it's a 3-team trade where Jimmy goes elsewhere and something else goes back to New Orleans, I could get on board with something like that. But I don't think New Orleans should have any interest at all in Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I mean, maybe they can both be in on a 3-team trade. That's another thing I saw floating around earlier, where, they're a part of a 3-team trade. Miami gets BI, Jimmy goes wherever he wants, and the Pelicans get compensation back.
Yeah.
Maybe they can be a part of that, but otherwise I don't really see it happening. In terms of the Rui thing, that's what I was talking about with him being forced to play out of position. Part of it is that Rui actually guards up very good. And that's why they feel like they can get away with putting Rui on bigger guys, because typically if you look at the numbers, it actually holds up pretty well. Where Rui gets into trouble is when he's forced to play on the perimeter, which is what's going to happen if he's slotted as a 3. So probably why you also need to move him to the bench so he doesn't have to do it as much. But the reality is LeBron's going to suck up 35 power forward minutes a game, so you're gonna have to go to that combination at some point if you want to make it any meaningful burn, right? So
you're absolutely gonna have to. No question. We've got, as far as Brandon Ingram goes, he'd be an interesting pivot for Memphis. Yeah, he'd be an interesting pivot for Memphis as well. Cam Johnson, Brandon Ingram, maybe as a guy to look at. Yeah, I think he'd be an interesting guy to go to.
Yeah, I just worry with BI if he's going to come in and try to co-opt the offense, have the ball the entire time,
and put up numbers because of his contract.
Yeah, I kind of worry about that. Like, I don't know if that if he's able to come in and buy into what they're doing there, the system, all that stuff, then okay. Like, I'm cool with that. And that's not just for them; that's for any team he'd go to. I have those same concerns. Also with BI, one underrated thing with him is I'd like him to go back to the defense he played when he was a Laker. He actually was getting after it on the defensive end, and he just, as he shifted to being more offensive, he just kind of left that to be what it is. But he profiles as a guy that should be a really good defensive player. He's got the tools for it. So if he can go back to just competing on that end, I think that'd be huge for him.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if he can lock in there, and sometimes that happens when an offensive role is diminished, you see a player's defensive production improve because they don't have to burn as much energy on the offensive side of the court. Let me see here. I had somebody say nobody wants to go to Memphis, to the Grizzlies. I mean, they're a good team this year. They're a really good team. I think there's an opportunity to come out of the West if they make the right move. Yeah. And they may not even need to make it. They might be able to come out of the West anyway. They've got some real talent there. Let's see. So. We've got Nick said, Trev, you better hit us with an Anthony Davis tonight. Anthony Davis.
Anthony, yeah, that one doesn't roll off the tongue.
No. Anthony Davis is the call I usually have, but I usually go AD3 because the jersey number's 3, and so I go AD3 on that one. And I think I've also settled on 3FS as my Dorian Finney-Smith 3-point shot.
No, it's Door 3.
What is Door 3 in? I did Tor 3 in last year for Torian, and it was just still a bit awkward. So you gotta try these out in the real world a few times, try them on and see how they fit, and we'll see. We'll land on a few of these, but yeah, I don't know about the Anthony Davis. Like, it's just, I don't know. Once you see it typed out and you're like, oh, okay, but then once you actually have to say it, it's just a little harder to roll off the tongue there.
Yeah, that one is kind of tricky.
For anybody who doesn't know what I'm talking about, I do that when I do the play-by-play for Lakers Nation during the games. I'm a dad. I throw in a bunch of puns and stuff like that, and so we have different things that we say for all these plays. And Anthony Davis, when Anthony Davis gets an and one, Austin Threeves, stuff like that we go to. It's fun. I make a fool of myself. It's a good time. Grindhard said, I know this is Lakers Nation. Can we get back CP? Chris Paul? Is that who we're talking about?
It better be.
Grindhard, we're talking Chris Paul. I don't know who else. Yeah, I don't think they're moving him. The Spurs, at least right now, at least they wouldn't move him to another West contender. Like, there was some thought that maybe if the Spurs are like one of the bottom teams in the West this season, that maybe they would flip Chris Paul closer to the deadline over as like a favor to him to a team that has a chance to win. But the Spurs are right there. I mean, they're the 10 seed right now. They have a 500 record. They're right there in the mix. I know they've lost their last 2, but if I'm the Spurs, and I mean, if somebody comes along with a good offer, sure. But otherwise, I'm not trying to move Chris Paul if I'm San Antonio.
I tried to Google NBA player CP, and I was like, who else? And then the only one, there it is. I was gonna say the only other player that showed up.
It's Caldwell Pope.
Yeah, I just Googled it. I googled it. I was like, okay, there's only 2. So yeah, no KCP or no Chris Paul. Caldwell would be pretty nice, but yeah, I don't think there's any way that they're gonna get rid of him.
The Orlando Magic. See, the Magic got a win over the Knicks last night, despite like every Orlando Magic player being hurt.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
I'd like that. They just keep on going, man. That's kind of crazy. Campaign, absolutely.
Campaign. Not. Somebody got Caldwell Pope.
Absolutely.
KCP. Not. Yeah, just put KCP and we definitely would have got it. I think it was just a omission there. Why would teams release a player they may need for a trade? Well, right now you've got some teams releasing guys that are on non-guaranteed contracts and stuff. And that's just to fill up flexibility at the end of their rosters. Typically, those kind of guys aren't going to change anything for a trade purposes. But if you're talking about, I've got people saying, "Oh, could Team X pick up Lonzo Ball when he gets bought out?" Well, he's not getting bought out now. I mean, they wouldn't do it. Teams on any kind of sizable contract, no team is buying out a player right now. They're going to wait until after the February 6th trade deadline because you never know. It's always possible that a trade comes up where you really needed that contract to make it work, and then you didn't have it because you bought the guy out. So buyouts aren't going to occur till after the trade deadline. There are some guys getting waived and everything because this is the drop dead date for non-guaranteed deals to become guaranteed. So teams are making decisions whether or not they want to pay that player for the remainder of the season. That's what's happening now. But as far as like guys actually getting bought out, could Ben Simmons get bought out? Could Lonzo Ball get bought out? Some of these other players, none of that's going to take place till after the trade deadline.
Yeah, he was responding to this. Can teams release players today?
Yes.
But they were saying, why would they if they needed them for a trade?
They can. They can.
So I just kind of pulled up his numbers. He's not been great. Do you think they would still move off of him or keep him?
Yeah, I do think so. I mean, I think they would keep him. And you know what? Like if you're a Lakers fan, if you're a fan of most teams, like you know what KCP does. He goes through slumps, sometimes prolonged slumps, and then
I was
he
gonna say this
bounces
is one
back
of
in a
them.
big way. So I would tend to think, despite how poor the numbers have been on the season, that a bounce back it will come sooner rather than later, because that's just what he's done historically. He was a big signing for the Magic this year.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would think that he will bounce back at some point. I know he's 31. But again, that's what we've seen from him historically. We look at, I mean, right now it's only 4 games, but 44% from three in January. Maybe that's starting. And then you see 28% from three in December, 34% from three in November. Like this is kind of what he does. Maybe the stat here for January is the start of the KCP bounce back here. Because,
Yeah.
I think it'll happen. If I had an opportunity to be a buyer on KCP, I would do it.
So I am of the opinion that he obviously everything you said is true. I do think he slumps. We saw it firsthand. He went through prolonged slumps, and everyone wants to trade him, and then he comes back and
Mm-hmm.
plays good. But I didn't think it was the craziest loss for Denver. I think it was a loss, obviously, because they're not able to put a lot of depth in there in place of him.
Yeah.
But I felt like he may be on a bit of a downward trajectory personally for the last year or so. I've been thinking that, not just statistically, but just the way he's moving out there. So I'm curious to see if he does rebound this year or if next year is better, because we're starting to get a little bit deep in here, like halfway through the season, almost third of the
Yeah.
season. So I'm not sure his numbers will rebound on the whole. But speaking of Denver, Braun has been pretty great, and they've got some great production even out of Russ and some of the other guys there. So I feel like they're starting to put it together in a big way as well, despite KCP leaving that team.
Yeah, I mean, you can see even when he was with Denver, there he is. There's 30% from deep. That's his slump month with the Nuggets, and he was 44%. He does this.
Yeah.
He does this. So I think he probably bounces back. But it's fair to wonder, like these guys who derive a lot of their value defensively from staying with guards, when they drop off, they can drop off fast because it's the quick twitch that matters so
Yeah.
much for these kind of guys. So it's fair to question that with KCP. I tend to think though his veteran presence will be important for
Yeah,
Orlando
I'm sure. Yeah.
in the playoffs. Denver misses him on defense. They can't guard right now. Yeah, I mean, look, Denver wants to make a move. Denver wants to make some kind of move to boost themselves back up, give themselves a shot to win right now with Jokic. But they're going to have a tough time doing it without moving, say, Michael Porter Jr. And even if they do, I don't know if that move's necessarily going to be there. They may just be at a point where they can say, you know what, we've got Jokic. He's the best player in the league, and that gives us a shot against anybody in the postseason. Let's go. Let's just run with that and hope that Jamal Murray goes on a heater in the playoffs. That may be the best bet for the Nuggets rather than make some kind of drastic roster moves because there's just not a lot they can do.
Yeah, they're fourth in offense, but 19th in defense this year.
Yeah. So. I mean, that they lost. It's the accumulation. And this is the new CBA. They couldn't pay KCP. Well, they could, but there'd be some penalties, obviously, with that, some significant ones. You lose Bruce Brown, you lose Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Like those are two key defensive pieces for you that you've lost over the last couple of years on the perimeter. And so, yeah, I mean, it makes sense that their defense is struggling, and that's why it's got them where Denver is. It's not like they're a bad team; they're a playoff team for sure. They're not bad, but they're not that dominant team that they were a couple of years ago.
Yeah. They've also got the 8th highest net rating, though.
Yeah, which again tells you they have a shot. It's just not like they're, taking care of everybody and anybody. All right, let's see what else we've got here.
Jamal is cheeks when not playing the Lakers. Man,
yeah, that's true. He is great whenever he plays he is a Laker killer, that's for sure.
That one series in the Western Conference Finals, he put up 35 points or something on good efficiency. It was disgusting.
Everything.
It was,
and he wasn't even that good against the Lakers in the playoffs last year. He just hit everything in crunch time.
Yeah. He had a couple games where he was ice cold, but he made the big shots at the end of the game. Like 2 game winners?
And that's what everybody remembers.
That's crazy, man.
Yep. Alex said, I see Orlando making a sneaky trade to Vucevic or something. Yeah, bringing back Vuce would be a nice move for the Magic. I could see them making it, especially because they're still, even with the injuries, they're right there in it. So I could see Orlando making some kind of a move here to add a piece, and bringing back Vucevic would be kind of like a feel good story for Orlando as well.
Orlando needs 15 stretch fives. My God.
That's right. That's right. Well, I
They
mean,
got
they
a
have dealt with some
billion.
injuries, but
Yeah,
yeah, like
yeah, but
I mean, Mo
still.
Wagner, he's done, so they could
Yeah.
use somebody. Grind hard, yes. Cam Reddish, it was announced by the Lakers. Cam Reddish is out in tonight's game, dealing with a back issue. That back issue popped up last game, so he is out. But Gabe Vincent is a go, so he'll be back. Ooh, would you do this, Desmond Randall for Jeremy Grant? If you're the Wolves,
I think it slots everybody better on their team. I think I can say that. I think they've got some clunkiness. But
what would you do? Would you just start Naz Reid then if you're the Wolves?
Yeah, probably. Will Jeremy be okay coming off the bench? That's also a good contract
okay. So
off the bench.
Yeah, so you would bring Jeremy Grant off the bench, and I think I agree.
Yeah.
I think I'd probably do that as well.
Yeah,
because I'm not benching McDaniels.
Well, you could say the same thing about Randall right now. Like, he's awesome, but that team, when you look at their numbers, it didn't matter if it was Naz Reid with Randall or if it was Naz Reid with Gobert. Both of those are positives, but Randall and Gobert together is a negative. So, like, when you just put Naz in for one of those guys, it works. And they're not going to bench Gobert, so it has to be Randall. So, I don't know. It's a weird situation.
It is. Orlando says Vucevic isn't the right move. Jakob Poeltl would be a great move. Orlando's bread and butter is defense. Yeah, they're one of the best defensive teams in the NBA. It's how they're winning games. The question is, can Vucevic give you the offensive punch that maybe you're lacking? Although if Paulo's coming back soon-ish, maybe that gives that back to you, and hopefully Franz will be back soon. But Jakob Poeltl, the latest news on him is that the Raptors are kind of like, we don't really want to trade him right now. Whereas Vucevic, we know, is going to be available. But look, if Jakob Poeltl were a player they could acquire, if the Raptors say, you know what, okay, we will move him, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. 100%. I agree with you.
Yeah, I think they got to keep Jakob because he's in on it. They're like, remember he said in the beginning, we're not winning a lot of games this year. We're just going to make it. So they're like, all right, he's a team player.
He knows the mission. He knows the job. Play well, lose a bunch of games. Let's go there.
He's in on it.
Grind hard. Appreciate you. Thank you. Subscribe to the channel. Anybody else who's not a subscriber to the channel, first of all, make sure you guys hit the like button. But if you haven't subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button on the channel. We're putting out new NBA content every single day, breaking everything down around the league. So please make sure you do hit that subscribe button. All right, let's do a couple more here. Some high criticism of Jeremy Grant. Jeremy Grant doesn't want to compete. He's more than happy making that money with zero effort. I mean, I don't know. Like, Jeremy Grant in Portland, no, they're not expected to win a lot. I think the real question for teams, if you're going to trade for Jeremy Grant, especially if you're going to take on that contract, which is a long-term contract, you got to be convinced that, and it's been a while, but you got to be convinced that, like, the Denver Jeremy Grant is still there, is still the type of player he can be. Because otherwise, most of the teams that would want to trade for Jeremy Grant don't really need the version of Jeremy Grant he is right now.
Yeah, it's a similar thing to what we were talking about with BI, to where, like, do you have that version in there of you where you can revert to, being more of a role player, because whatever team you're going to isn't going to want you to be a primary, first or second option in most cases. So it's kind of a trickier thing. But with Jeremy, I think it's a little bit more, I think that's more true for him than it is for BI. But yeah, it's just a weird spot that he's in.
All right, let's go here. Knicks and 6 says, I'm very concerned about the minutes of the Knicks starters. Well, I mean, first of all, Tom Thibodeau, like, that's what he's known for doing forever, is playing his starters major minutes. Like, he always does this. But I mean, take a look at the starting five right now. You've got Brunson at 35 minutes, Cat at 34.6, 39 minutes for Bridges. Good Lord. OG Anunoby at 36.5. And then Josh Hart at almost 38 minutes. I mean, Miles McBride is getting 25 minutes off the bench. Yeah, they lean on their starters a lot. Donnie, this is where I wonder, like, is there a domino effect where Mitchell Robinson eventually getting healthy can help the Knicks, in that it not just takes minutes off of, say, Cat at the 5, but you could have a bit of a domino effect across the rest of the roster as well, and bring some of the minutes down. They need to have more guys that they can rely upon. And I think that right now the Knicks feel like playing their starters. The big minutes is the way to go. But I wonder if Mitchell Robinson might be the high quality player, at least on the glass, that allows them to bring some of these minutes down.
Yeah, really quick, I'd like to shine a spotlight on Cat.
Yeah.
He's having an awesome year, man. Far and away, career high in rebounds, 25 points,
Yeah.
3.5 assists, a block, a steal. He's having an awesome season. But yeah, I do think that's something that they're kind of looking out for and something that they need. And part of the reason why I wanted to do that is because he's being asked to play such a big role on this team because they don't have a ton of front court depth right now because Mitchell so much is tied into him and he's just not out there right now. So I do think they need to get him on the floor. And I really do like the way that this team is built, but at the end of the day, they are pretty top heavy anyway.
Yeah.
So their starters are going to always average a lot of minutes regardless. But when you look at some of the other teams like Cleveland, Memphis, they're out there winning these games with their guys playing 28, 29, 30 minutes. And I think I've got to think that will add up, in a positive way for them and in a negative way for these guys where Bridges has to play nearly 40 minutes a night. So that's a lot of minutes to put on, on all of your guys where they're playing 35, 36 plus minutes. So I think they've got to find a way to mix in some of these guys. They've got good production from McBride. Payne's been all right for them. Achua's been good for them. I think they've got to find more ways to just peel back some of these minutes. I saw the other day, there was a game where all the starters logged like 44 or 42 minutes. And it's just, man, it's crazy. So I think they've got to find a way to just mix some of these guys in more. But I think a lot of that does tie into Mitchell, like you were saying.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are playing minutes like it's 1997's NBA, right? Where, I mean, Shaq plays 40 minutes a night and all that.
These guys have so much more movement now with the pace that it's not created equal.
Same.
It's just not the same.
No, people look at that and they go, "Oh, wait, but Shaq did it, or Wilt did it, or whatever." The game has changed so much, and you can see it in the distance traveled by a player on the court during the game. It's significantly more than it was 20 years ago today because of how much movement there is, because of the spacing, because of the shooting, all of that. You're asking the human body to do a lot more in today's NBA than you were, say, 20 years ago. Maybe there's not as much physicality posting up. We're going to throw a big body at this center, and Hakeem Olajuwon is going to put all these moves on me, and I got to deal with that all night. But that's a lot different than I got to navigate through 3 screens, chase my guy all the way across the floor, and get a hand up and contest without fouling, and I have to do that 40 times on the night. Like, it's a different kind of strain on the body. So when people criticize today's NBA for not being physical enough compared to the way it used to be, there is a serious toll it takes on the body. It's just in a bit more of a different way. It's that much more movement, motion, quick twitch type stuff, stop, start, cut, all of that can create, obviously, I mean, we've seen injuries around the league this season. It can create a very, very tough play style for players to stay healthy.
Yeah, we see freak injuries now. It's weird stuff.
I did want to go, where was it? Oh, Mitchell Robinson is a taller Vando. And then he's a mythical creature.
Yeah. It's like him and Robert Williams. These guys don't exist, man.
That's it. Let's go. Oh, Pelinka is trying to sabotage LeBron's legacy. Why would he want to do that? It doesn't make any sense.
You've never seen that before?
Like, but what? Because of Kobe or something?
Yeah, I've seen that before.
That's the thought?
Typically because Kobe. So
good Lord. Yeah. We're looking for a conspiracy theory or something there. But a first and a second for Miles Turner. I don't think Miles Turner's on the market at all right now. Gabe and a first for Cam Thomas. I don't think that gets Cam Thomas. Then win it all. Sure. I'd win it all. Let's go. But last one I want to do is second apron ruin the trade market hype. I think teams are still looking to make moves. I think the West is wide open. I think there's teams that feel like they can move up in the East. I think there's more sellers on the market than we've seen in years past, which is a positive for deals getting done. I mean, like second apron ruined the trade market hype. We've had 3 trades already. That's happened. I believe that's happened once in the last 2 decades that we've had 3 trades by this point of the year. That's crazy. This is abnormal. We're seeing more activity than usual. The new CBA is a problem for getting deals done. It's a challenge for general managers to navigate around. But so far, it hasn't necessarily stopped deals from happening. They're finding ways to do it. I would like to see the new CBA relaxed a little bit. I would like to see these restrictions pulled back so that we can see even more activity. But right now, you've got motivated sellers, you've got motivated buyers. I think we're going to get an active trade deadline.
Yeah. I don't know if we're going to get like the deadline day thing, but I think until the deadline, things are going to be pretty interesting. I think what'll determine if it's an active deadline is if any of these big name guys out there, because there's a lot of them that are kind of just out there, like Jimmy, Beal, Ingram, Levine. There's a lot of guys that are kind of just out there. If any of these guys start getting moved, I think that'll determine it for me. But I wanted to, I wanted to show you this because we kind of talked about this for like the first 5 minutes of the podcast.
Braun ruined his own legacy thinking he's a GM. I mean, that's a perfect way to bookend things because look, people will be upset with LeBron saying he's the GM too much, and Kevin Durant, other guys don't necessarily get that kind of flack. I mean, you think the Warriors are going to make a move to go get Jimmy Butler without talking to Steph Curry first? No chance.
Steph had a quote today where he said, "Clock's ticking, need to get moving." So,
absolutely. Oh, how soon can the NBA make CBA changes? It'd be the offseason, and it would require both the NBA and the NBPA to agree to make changes to the CBA. There's not going to be a new CBA. I think this one doesn't come up for a while, but they can make alterations to it, but both sides have to agree. Just like we saw during the pandemic, both sides went, "Oh, the CBA doesn't cover this because who was going to predict this? We're going to have to amend this and make changes and things like that." And so, as long as both sides agree, they can do that. But once the document is set, both sides have to agree to whatever changes are going to be made.
That's interesting. Do you think that we'll see that as soon as this offseason?
I don't know. I think if we do get a busy trade deadline, I think they'll give it another year or two to really see what happens. But so far, a lot of GMs have complained about how difficult it is to make deals. But if the NBA can go back and go, "Well, yeah, but you still made trades anyway," then it'll probably just stand.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. All right, I guess that's it.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Well, we do have some games tonight. If you guys are Lakers fans, or even if you're not Lakers fans, you want to come hang out during Lakers Mavs, I'll be live on playback.tv/Lakers Nation and youtube.com/Lakers Nation if you want to hang out. If you have not subscribed yet, please make sure you hit the subscribe button here for the Basketball Bulletin. Appreciate all the support that we've had here on this channel. And don't forget to turn on those notifications as well. All right, Tony. Another successful live show in the books. We're going to have to make sure we incorporate even more of these as we get closer and closer to the trade deadline.
Yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in. It was a ton of fun, and definitely be on the lookout for more.
Absolutely. See ya and stay safe.